Hey everyone, it's Mr. Richards here. I'm going to show you how to get started on your stop motion particle project. So make sure you download the Stop Motion Studio app from Self-Service, then open it up. And when you do that, there will be an introductory video that you can either watch or skip. Then you want to create a new movie. You'll click outside of that box and it'll go away. Now, you can see that in my picture I have my particles set up, and I've only got 5 of them because that's all I need. I also have my iPad set up on a kickstand. That way my iPad is going to be completely immobile while I'm doing this project. It's a really good idea to split your video into scenes, all right? And I'll show you what scenes I'm talking about in a minute. But if you need to change locations for your iPad, try not to do it in the middle of a scene. It's kind of jarring. All right, so I've got my 5 particles here, and what I want to show is them moving as if they were cold, all right? Now, to make that very clear, I've made a little note that says cold, and I'm just gonna put this here and leave it in the video. Now, of course, you can do this digitally using this app, but this is probably the easiest way to do it, all right? So, what I want to do right now is I want to get my particles in a position that's a good starting point. There we go. And I'm going to take a picture. Now, I've got my onion skin slider. That's this slider on the left side. I've got that set about halfway. Now, it doesn't look like anything now, but as soon as I move a particle, you can see the difference between the picture that I just took and what is live right now. That makes it really easy to see how much you have moved each one of your particles. Okay, and I'm only going to move them a little bit and take another picture. Now, the reason I'm only moving them a little bit is because I'm trying to show a cold temperature. And if you want to show things that are moving slowly using stop motion, you have to only move them a very small amount between each picture that you take. So I will take a couple of pictures and I'm just going to move these a little bit each time. Now, obviously, I'm not showing a full example of what would be like a 3 or a 4 level work, right? I'm only taking about 5 pictures. But if I play these pictures now, you can see that I've got the start of showing some movement here. All right? Okay. Now, if I wanted to move on, let's say I'm finished with cold, this would be finished with the cold scene. So now if I had to move to a different location, maybe I want to work on this at home now, this would be a great place to change location and then start on the next scene. The next temperature would be medium, or you could call it warm. It doesn't really matter. Now for this scene, you want to show your particles both spreading out a little bit more and moving a little bit faster. To do that, we're going to move our particles a little bit more in between each picture that we take. So I'll take a picture to start, and then this time I'll move them. That's about how far I moved them when I was doing the cold. I'm going to move them about twice as far in the medium temperature. Now notice if you see on the onion skin, the particles are about half. I moved it about, see the edge of the particle is now about right in the middle of the picture from before, okay? That's a pretty good place to do it for medium. I'd take a picture and then I'd move them again. Now, this gets a little tricky when you have a ton of particles. That's why I'm saying 5 is plenty. You could do it with 4 even. Because it's a good idea to kind of remember which way these particles are moving so you don't have them do any jarring movements. But I'm just moving them about halfway. This will show a good amount, and I should probably try to get them to space out a little bit more because after all, when particles get warmer, they do spread out a little bit. Okay, we'll call this probably, whoops, wrong thing. Call that good. All right, so now I've got about 12 pictures. I'm showing cold and medium temperature. And now if I play the whole thing, you can see cold and medium, and there's a pretty clear difference between the two. Now, I have only taken 12 pictures. my expectation is that for each scene, so for the cold scene and the medium scene, for each one of those, you should take between 10 and 20 pictures at a minimum. I'd say 10 is the absolute minimum if you want like a 1 or a 1.5. 20 is kind of what you need to do if you want to get like a 2 or a 3. And you're going to need to take like 50 if you want a 4. And here's why. At the bottom of your stop motion app screen, or not at the very bottom, but right above that, there's a little gear icon. And when you click on that, it shows you this little speedometer thing right here across the top. And this little yellow line in the middle is set right on 5. So that's 5 frames per second, all right? And right now I've got like 3 seconds worth of video, all right? Now a level 2 or a 3 is gonna have a minimum of like 10 to 15 frames per second, okay? If you want a level 4, you need 25 to 30 frames per second. Now, obviously, the more frames per second you do, the more pictures you have to take. Because if I set mine to 25 frames per second and I press play, it's incredibly short, all right? But you can see that the movement is actually a little bit more clear. So setting the frame rate a little bit higher is going to make your video appear smoother and clearer. Setting it lower is going to make it look more jerky, okay? All right, again, the default is 5 frames per second, and if you leave it there, you're probably gonna be working with a grade of like a 1 or a 2. If you wanna get a higher grade, make sure you set it at a minimum of like 10 and up to 15. If you want a 4, you need to set it at 25 or higher, okay? All right, now I haven't shown these particles moving at a high speed with a hot temperature. You are going to have to figure that one out on your own. Again, if you have any questions, please call, email, or ask me in person. Good luck, everybody.